Indeed. Well, here is our first match of the day, and that will not feature Toronto Defiant. No, we're going to see Nightmare going up against TSM. It's going to be a good one. I'm feeling it. I'm smelling it. We've seen from TSM mostly Genji thus far. Right? Yeah. Is this something you expect to see again today? I mean, we had Rocket in for a little bit on that Tracer as well. We're seeing him in the starting lineup. Will they sprinkle Rocket in on Tracer or potentially Pharah even?
This is super interesting because both these players are traditionally known as the flex DPS roles. They're not really known for the hit scan, so maybe we could potentially see something, no hit scan. I'm not sure what it could be. Maybe like a Pharah Tracer or something of that look, but yeah, King is traditionally known for that Genji, his best character. Rocket is well known for his Tracer, pulling out the fire every once in a while. But yeah, Vision is traditionally their hit scan player, so it's super interesting to see him not play here. Squid playing the flex support. I want to highlight TSM though, because they do have Liar playing the break for them, correct? So they have a weird kind of sort of flexibility things going on where they kind of have to swap their roles if they want to play the Zen comp that they're known for. So there's a lot going on the TSM roster. Yeah, and they're going up against Nightmare, and I think one of the things we've just highlighted every single time we've seen them on the server, it has to be their DPS duo. I mean, Zero and Seeker have been lights out this tournament.
Yeah, Seeker and Zero has just been phenomenal, and even in the first match of the bracket, it was TSM going up against Nightmare, and going through those VODs, I mean, Nightmare were just different. Seeker is able to make things happen on both the Widowmaker but also the Cassidy, and Zero gets insane amount of value from Genji, teaming up with Infected, who's saying that Orisa is his best hero. And you can definitely see that when the Terra Surges come through with the Dragon Blade, they combine beautifully and get a lot of value from those ultimates. So I think it's going to be an uphill battle for TSM here, because Nightmare really specialized on the meta composition so far.
They have indeed. Let's take a look at our predictions for this one. I personally feel like there is a clear favorite heading into it, and that has to be Nightmare. I think with their performance in this tournament, they clearly established themselves as the second best team in the NA region, especially in this meta. I don't feel like there's any composition the opposition can play better than them. So I give it to them in a 3-0 victory.
I also am going with Nightmare. You know, I think there's not a lot of teams that could take Toronto to a map 5, just like we saw yesterday. And also that lineup, like you guys talked about, Infected, Seeker, Zero. I think pound for pound, I think Nightmare do have the better players.
Yep, I'm not being creative. I am right there with you. I'm going with 3-0 Nightmare. The only really way I can see TSM having really a chance here is pulling out that Zenyatta composition, making it difficult for Infected to play the game. And like you said, Orisa's his best character. Put some pressure on Infected, make it hard to play the game, and it's just a unique look, so maybe it might throw Nightmare off a little bit.
Yeah, I went with Nightmare too, and that was something we also saw in that match between them. Squid was actually the player that flexed around a little bit. We even saw the Illari come out from Squid on Lijiang Tower, of course, so that is something they can do. They did pull out the Squid Zenyatta on Suravasa against Nightmare in the first round of the bracket, but they got 3-0 on Suravasa. So maybe Nightmare already have the answer to the Zenyatta. We'll have to see. Yeah. Might be a bit of a different Tracer Genji look here on this first map. We'll have to see.
Well, whether it's Illari or a Zenyatta on this server, we're going to have one happy boy here in the studio, because Jack just so happens to love both of these characters more than anything, really. That's so facts. Jack, Jen, you're going to cover the action for our first one. I'm just going to make the assumption that you're both also heavily leaning towards Nightmare for this one.
Yeah.
Shrug. Be honest. Be honest.
3-0. I mean, Jen, do you think anything different here?
I'm thinking a 3-1 just because TSM are really strong on control, and I do gotta give credit to TSM. Like, okay, we don't look at the quarterfinal, okay? Don't watch that replay code if you find it. But TSM, you gotta say that they're one of the most improved teams in North America. Like, this is the deepest run they've made as a squad. Of course, the players themselves, I think 2/3 of TSM have made a grand final. So as the Overwatch desk have said, the talent is there.
My favorite line in Overwatch Esports history. The talent's there, guys. Don't worry. Boss Not Rising, talent's there. They will win the season, I promise. All right, Ilios is going to be our first map. Going over to Ruins. This was Nightmare's pick as well. First to 3 here in the lower bracket finals. Winner moves on to face Toronto Defiant. The desk, of course, and the audience too, you know. Very much in favor of Nightmare taking this series. It was a very close affair, and I think Nightmare have been the team, and NRG Shock, to be fair, to maybe take games and maps off of Toronto Defiant, maybe even a game. And I think Nightmare, especially yesterday's performance, looking like maybe if they do rematch Toronto Defiant, they will finally take a series off of them. TSM rolling out on the Squid Zen again, Jen.
and also the Hammond from Riker. So this is going to be very quick initiation, but NTMR, I gotta be worried about Seeker and how much this Hammond's gonna be going after him. So far, Riker pile drive focus on Zera, but with this Hammond kind of gonna be off tempo as Seeker gets shoved into spawn there by the Hammond. This is maybe an off tempo play that Infected could move in, but no, he gets focused there by the Pharah.
Oh yeah, but backline already down. Type looking good. CJ takes down King. Riker, even with the bee skin, he can't quite sting like a bee currently. I mean, Juno, with the movement speed and the packs and the brig, you're not going to get taken down too easily. Nightmare do end up capping at that point first. Seeker switching over to the Sombra. Kind of something we've seen a little bit more prominence over the last couple of days is that Sombra, and it looks like this going to prompt a comp swap from TSM too. They know the backline is going to get permadove, and with the Sombra, Zen isn't going to last half a second on this map.
Yeah, Nightmare have like the double flanker with the Tracer, usually on a map like Well. And we're not here right now, but this was deadly against Toronto Defiant. The one of the maps they took against Toronto, and Nightmare are pretty lethal with it.
Yeah, nice manual hack on Squid. Easy follow-up as well. How aggressive Zera's playing too. Everybody's so low. Seeker does end up going down. Zera guarding that mega health pack. Gets the reset. Dashes back to the rest of the team. Yeah, Nightmare just in full control. And unfortunately for TSM, and just kind of the nature of the control game type, because you've swapped your backline that late into this into the map, Nightmare are going to have these double deep support ultimates up so fast.
And Nightmare already winning the frontline duel, so their lead is going to extend even more. But really interested to see how the DPS matchup is going to go. I'll find Zera and King pretty even in the Genji role. Even Seeker, Rocket. I mean, that's usually not the matchup. It's usually Seeker versus Vision in that case. And the fluctuating, varying peaks in these DPS, but it's who's going to be showing up today, especially in this lower bracket match, to see who goes up against Toronto, waiting for this Dragon Blade pull there by Zera.
Rally popped, perfect bolt spawn target for Rocket. Looking for the brig, but you see there, presence of mind from Apple, just perma shooting himself. Terror Surge does end up coming through as well as that Ray, but I don't think that extra damage was really needed. Squid's also going to use that Ray, because look, Nightmare are just going to run away with this. You got to at least try and find something. A lot of additional damage, but Squid ends up going down. Only Rocket there to touch, triggering OT, but it's only the Tracer against 3 people alive from Nightmare on the point. Making it look easy, honestly. Just TSM were not in that game at all. See if the same could be said for the next round. Maybe it was just the comp swap so late. Like I said, the nature of control can be quite rough. If the game starts getting out of hand for you early on, it can be tough to really get back in, especially if you're swapping up some of these key heroes as we jump over to Lighthouse now.
I like this map pick overall just for Nightmare. Of course, they had a very strong showing against Toronto Defiant. This was the map they brought out the, the Ryan Sim May that completely threw them off. And TSM, I mean, they usually are stronger on Lijiang Tower, but of course, Ilios is great for Pharah, and how you can leverage King on control for the Fire is going to be important. And Nightmare, they get so much value out of their ultimates. They had a Dragon Blade to spare after that 100-0, so TSM got to wake up and smell the coffee.
All right, Pharah here for King against Seeker Ash. Really like this Nightmare backline comp as well. Laya switching over to the Brig. Was on Lucio for a brief moment, so it's going to be a late push here for TSM if they even decide to do it, because Laya's super far away. Anti-nade on Infected. King already taking a shot, also switching from Pharah to the Echo instead. Oh, that nade.
And Nightmare not even going to bring out the Rhine comp because they just truly believe they're the better dive composition. I mean, Nightmare invested a lot to get Infected for his flexibility on all of the tanks. And so far, this backline from Nightmare is doing all the work. It is a cap for TSM just because of Rocket and Riker sitting there, just to get a few more percentage points. But Nightmare in the driver's seat.
There's no way they should have got that kill onto King either. My word. Good focus fire both from CJ and Seeker. Point instantly flipped, 9%. Pretty much the lowest percent you can actually get on control, or close to at the very least. And this high ground too for Seeker is just so nice. Taking a couple of pop shots though from Squid. Here's Riker struggling to stay alive on the high ground. Rocket goes down to Seeker. Nano boost deployed onto the Winston, but a good flail there from Admiral will stop Riker going onto the high ground, but he's turned his attention to Seeker. But Seeker's already claimed 1 life. Make that another. as Zera helps him finish off the Winston. He does end up getting flipped by Laya, but I mean, it's just instantly going to get flipped back. There it is. 31% in building now. TSM struggling in this map so far, Jen.
It's about connecting the dots for TSM the same way they lost against Nightmare in the past, and a lot of teams. It's just TSM just not being able to tempo with each other. Like the Nano Winston just brought down immediately all the focus on him when he's isolated like that. And then King and Riker really got to work together. Rocket got to balance the point with also being able to shred down the tank of Infected, bring down that armor. As soon as that armor is gone, the Tracer has to be involved.
We're trying to get the Brig Bash onto high ground. TSM have finally made their first incision with CJ dead, although with Bob being deployed, it makes it awkward for Riker to fight right now because Bob is on the point currently, so no chance for a random flip throughout the fight. And using that Primal Rage just as a survival tool, not much crazy someone Primal Rage-esque kind of moves here from Riker, sadly. As Nightmare, they're almost on final fight. I mean, they got 80%. Infective on high ground, taking a lot of damage, ends up popping his own Primal, now chasing Riker away from heights. He's gonna push him over the edge too, he's gonna continue his chase. Point is being capped, or was for a brief moment. Infected does end up getting stuck, but Infected jumps straight back into Rocket. That poke spawn damage aiding in the kill. And the Nano Boost now deployed a little bit later. King on the Ash does end up duplicating Seeker, but what more can he really do? He's going to try and get onto the high ground, but a good sleep onto Riker is going to put that assault to an end. And there is just absolutely nothing here, Jen. I don't know what to say, to be very honest with you. This is just an absolute slaughter for Nightmare right now, as TSM haven't had a single word to say so far in this first map as they clean up 2-0 on Ilios.
Yeah, TSM just not being able to get a footing in this map at all. Like, all of the map control, especially on Lighthouse, just went for Nightmare. When your Winston can control all the high grounds, your Ana can't come out of safe cover, can't provide consistent healing, can't even maybe land sleeps to slow down Infected. Like, Infected was running that entire map, and it's tough when your Echo is constantly pushed away from the rest of the team. Like, King can't even... gets pushed away from the rest of his team, and he can't really find an isolated duel. And it's whether do you look at Infected, do you try to deal with Seeker? Like, it's tough for TSM to find a good goal. Was it to look at the Winston? Was it to look at the backline? Was it to look at the DPS? TSM were so split apart that they really couldn't unite for one good push at all.
It's like a S-rank hunter versus an E-rank hunter right now. It's just no competition. Nightmare, considering their series versus Toronto Defiant yesterday, all the way to 5 maps with Nightmare even looking like they could take Toronto. It's been a bit of a crazy year, honestly. Everybody knew Toronto was going to be the strongest team coming in, but they've been so dominant stage after stage after stage, and it's only just now teams are really getting to the point where they can take Toronto all the way and then maybe even beat them. And Nightmare being one of the teams to do that feels like TSM a little bit unmatched. Look at this. Jumps straight onto him with the pulse bomb, a little bit of pulse bomb damage on top. Boom. Yeah, I like what I see. And I'm glad you picked up Infected too during this series, or during this map. Like, he has been a up-and-coming, like, rising tank star for the team in North America. Has been extremely good. Top of the ladder, like, consistently C-right, but also a dive tank that could potentially even take it to someone, a world champion, an Overwatch League champion. It's been an incredible thing to see. And look at the stats on your screen as well. 4.8 KD versus 0.2. Yeah, filth. Absolute filth.
Yeah, if you would have told me like 5 years ago that Infected would be a top tank in North America, I would have called you crazy. Like, the insane amount of improvement to be considered a top Western tank, and it's huge. I mean, Nightmare really wanted this guy. They got him, and now they could depend all on him, and they didn't have to bring out any funny Rhine strats or anything like that. They are just that confident in their Winston play, and it showed. And for Seeker and Zero to just fire on all cylinders around him, you know, we had some funny moments with Seeker yesterday, falling into a certain Ilios well, and the team seeming to have fun with it. And Nightmare, a team that it's hard to really push them off their game. It's hard to make them lose composure.
That was my favorite clip of yesterday, honestly, with Seeker jumping into the well by accident. It was like the translocator was on like a 2-second, 1-second cooldown or something, and you could see him like look up, like please, 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 like spamming E. Like, surely I get out of this. Here's the map pool on your screen. Should be well known at this point, but they can go anywhere they want. TSM, I mean, if you were them currently, if you want to flex over to something a little bit more spicy, the Zen, the Alari, probably don't go Suravasa right with the Zen. I think Johnny picked it up on the desk. They got 3-0'd by Nightmare last time they faced. Where would you want to go?
It depends on what this TSM sub is. TSM have picked Midtown. Okay. They have picked Runasapi, but do not go to those maps against Nightmare. It was ugly. Nightmare full capped them on Runasapi. Midtown also went the way of Nightmare. So you bring, of course, Vision in, that wonderful hit scan to try and match up against Seeker. Widow duel on Midtown, I felt was pretty even. Both players had big impacts. Runasapi, it'll really be about the Cassidy mirror. And Vision really has to step up because there's been a lot of hype behind Seeker, and people forget that Vision can have those big moments too.
Oh, it's going to be Esperanza. Okay. Yeah, Vision's been a little bit of a superstar as well for TSM. I like TSM's ability to kind of flex onto things a little bit more aggressive with the Alari, with the Zenyatta. I think maybe Vision is going to enable that. I think with TSM going to this map, though, probably not playing anything off meta, probably just going to stock standard at this point. Winston also wouldn't be such a bad option either. I think Nightmare, though, right now at least, the tempo very much in their favor. They won that rematch, right, against Toronto Defiant. They want to obviously make it to Stockholm. The competition, that's only a month and a bit away. Don't forget to grab your tickets as well. DreamHack.com/Stockholm. There you go, bam. Remember the URL as we are load in.
Good old Sweden. Reinforce will give you the tour, something about Danny with no short. I don't know. I kind of
yeah, we're gonna have to scrub that one from the VOD.
I'm trying. But we have not seen this map from either teams. And TSM needed to try and surprise Nightmare. This is especially prepared for them, where TSM are the only team that like to really bring a lot of changes in their backline, whether it's the Zen or maybe an Alari. And this would be a long-range map where you could get away with the Zen. But I don't know, with how aggressive Infected has been, your backline may not be able to last against that. Gotta go with something safe. Yeah,
I was thinking maybe you could run the Venture. Would be a little bit cheeky, but Genji does seem the more safe pick. Seen a couple of King Blade clips over the last couple of days as well. He's been quite sharp on the hero.
And then the Cassidy versus Ashe matchup. Ashe a little bit slower, slower to reload, slower to move, doesn't have as much mobility compared to the Cassidy, but the Bob impact, when you want to hold an objective by yourself a few seconds, want to hold some space, Ashe is so impactful with that. While the Deadeye, to use the speed ring to approach on some space is very good. One for holding space, one for taking space.
So you can find nice off angle. Sango's really strong to hold. Does check the Orisa, and that's Seeker's job here. Just shoot the Orisa as much as possible, making Infective's life a little bit easier. They're trying to make a move. I mean, Seeker's had to back off from his little mini health pack position. Slowly juggling the point, waiting for a single pick. Normally you'd think the Ashe comp will be doing that from afar. A little headshot, a little dash in with a Genji dash out.
And Nightmare are trying to draw the fight away from that bridge because they just don't want to be dynamited nonstop by Vision. This is a high ground advantage for TSM if you were to fight in that area. So Nightmare just can't seem to draw them out, so orbital ray time.
There it is, both orbital rays kind of on the point here. TSM making very good use of theirs. It was actually laid down on the stairs, so it's healing coming in ASAP for Riker. Bob's going to get deployed as well. Vision finds 2 already. Yeah, that Vision was in that Ray for so long, basically just moving down the stairs with it slowly, and as soon as it reached the front line, Riker was in trouble, and it healed him all the way back up as Nightmare, they eventually get slain. And now they move on, and now this is going to be a big problem. Vision on this high ground is going to be so deadly to deal with. Even for Seeker, this ranged disadvantage with the Cass versus the Ashe is so prominent here.
And you saw just the strength that Vision already brings to this roster. He built a Bob in that first fight because Nightmare walked into
Good
dynamite range. Here's the Terror Surge.
Terror Surge takes down CJ. Seeker, high noon, high ground, 2 already dead for him. Oh, spots 1. Oh, did well, liar. Wrong place, wrong time, buddy. All good though for TSM. Really good push. Terror Surge was very strong. Terror Surge, dynamite on top. And then TSM now claiming that first checkpoint. Very different look from what we saw on Control, at the very least.
More consistent, just DPS output when you have Vision in the lineup, who Yeah, you're not going to really trust him with the Tracer as much as Rocket, but you needed something more long range, and that's what he provides. But it's also the positions that TSM hold on top of the bridge as Blade available for King. If he could take control of that left hallway, he could access the back line, but the hit scans could exchange and open things up too.
Nice, all right, Seeker's now changed over as well, realizing how strong the Ashe is currently. Use the coach work, guns get away from King. King taking a headshot, has to back off, no reflect. Still can kind of peek this little angle here and just threaten the Blades. And here it comes. Riley's going to come in. Nice stun. Deflection's going to come out. King doesn't escape alive, though. The flail swing's too strong there for Admiral. And it looked like, as well, Zero was in that engagement, too. So it's a 3v1. An ambitious play for King. Normally paired with that Juno ult, right? Just get the one slashes on people. The King thinking maybe he can make the hero play. With the checkpoint, TSM burn a lot of time off the bank as well, so they're still in a decent spot. Maybe they can recontest on their own high ground, but it looks like Nightmare are going to try and take it away from them.
Very stoic for Admiral to not be zoned off by the Blade, to be front and center with the rally. I think he got a bunch of kills too, just from being so much of a Giga Chad brig, and to do exactly what is demanded of him to counter the Blade with the rally stun. Now Zero's gonna have the same problem with his Blade coming up, but it will be the orbital rate change to initiate.
Seeker's already dead. It's a nice angle as well. TSM are taking, they end up just flipping the map on the team. Orbital Rays are going to come out. Vision takes a lot of damage, but ends up just going straight into the Ray to get healed. Bob deploying the high ground. The Blades gets pulled by Zera. I mean, there's absolutely nothing you could do there. King almost, I would imagine, regretting using the Blade in that previous fight. It's just so powerful. Even if you're just not like insta-killing DPS, just chunking down Narissa with how much the Blade swings do in the Ray is enough to secure a kill. 40 meters and counting as TSM try to regroup before this checkpoint is unlocked. You see Riker kind of stepping up, but I don't think they're going to be able to get there.
And Liar just wasn't in range with the rally stun. That's what's important. That orbital ray that CJ brought out caused so much chaos with TSM. They disengaged everywhere, were so spaced out that Zera was able to divide and conquer. Fantastic Blade action out of him. This could get Nightmare the lead if they win this next one.
Well, they got Terror Surge to TSM. They got the Bob on the Nightmare side of things. Bob versus Terror Surge. Here comes the Bob to start off the fight. Ends up just running into the Arissa. Goes golden, but Bob's in a good spot. Very nice angle here up against this yellow train car. Or tram car. No, I guess it's not a train. It's getting pushed by the bot as well. Holy Giga Brain by Seeker there. King's already in. Riker's setting up for a Terror Surge perhaps. Looking to pull the Genji in at the very least. Doesn't really want to only get infected. Wants to get a squishy with him, so King can follow up with some nice damage. Nightmare have got the lead now, and the high ground control as well. Rally, Rays are coming up. Nightmare got two of those. Squid only with a Ray here as Liar 50% away from the rally. Might be a hard fight for TSM. Well, with Riker dead, it definitely will be. A huge bash in the front line as well from Admiral. Oh, it's over before it even begun. Like tug-of-war with a 6th grader there. Nightmare just run over TSM with a rally Ray.
And Nightmare were already happy getting the lead just off of not even needing to fight, but to just use the Bob, place it behind TSM, and TSM had this pretty important fight for them to win to make this salvageable, and then the Orbital Ray, but it was what cooldowns were available during the Orbital Ray. CJ having the big missiles, a lot of DPS, blowing up Riker was key there for Nightmare. Now it's 87 to 60 with a Blade available. No rally this time to ruin King's day. All defensive vision. And this Bob placed behind Nightmare can mess things up. It's who's going to pull the trigger first in this fight that matters.
Seeker looking for a flank angle potentially. Infected is alone right now in the front line, but maybe not alone for long. Zera takes to the size. Cuts Vision straight and clean in half. 3 minutes to go, and Nightmare, they found back-to-back team kills. TSM go for the reset. This game is slowly slipping out of their fingers, and what was a fairly decent early lead.
Yeah, King not being able to take the initiative with the Blade really hurts, but now he's got Rally and Blade, so this is a must-win fight for TSM, or they're just gonna face deja vu of getting full capped on yet another push map. And Nightmare, they're painful to deal with.
There's the disengage Lemon. Rally comes out from Liar, and Nightmare don't want any of that. Just gonna shelve their aggression for the time being. Still holding onto the Blade though. TSM not too aggressive. Didn't blow both ults at the same time, but now Nightmare can reset on this corner. They're just gonna go in, I think. Yeah, Blade's gonna get popped straight onto Seeker.
Fortify.
He's got a reset dash, can just go to safety. But look at that Ray, the Bob glowing bright blue. You do not want to get in the way of Bob there, unfortunately. For TSM, they're going to lose all the space because of it. Here comes the Orbital Ray. Now the Orisa, Laya and King using their full weight, pushing Nightmare into that small room. And the AoE cleave was enough to get the kills. 2 minutes to go, and TSM with a 60-meter deficit now have to try and make this up.
Riker is such an important pillar to TSM. First to fortified against the Bob, so the Bob could not just go past him and really start shooting the backline. So TSM able to hold that space and fought for it inside the room, and the Orbital Ray caused the chaos. And the type of chaos that TSM really appreciate, that is really around their playstyle to scrap, and that's why they're so strong on maps like Control. And maybe you could even consider Push to be chaotic at times with how back and forth it is. But with less than 90 seconds, oh man, TSM are gonna have to pull a rabbit out of their hat. And again, Bob placement important there for Vision. Depends if you can spot the gold as the Orisa, see if you can really have that Bob placed towards the back line and really split up Nightmare. Then there's also the Terra Surge. But Nightmare are playing so smart around the corner, TSM are forced to peek around this.
Bob comes in. Nice counter bash actually coming through from Amble. Ends up popping the rally as well. Both Terra Surges coming out, but Vision and Squid are already dead. These fights from Nightmare, just so precise. They're just going first here on what seemed to be a good Bob coming through from Vision. A counter bash from Admiral stops the Bob entering the Nightmare backline. And these fights for TSM are just not going in their way at all. They gain 2 meters off of that push, and there's only 40 seconds to go.
Yeah, Nightmare are good at playing passive enough and frustrating to play against when they can just contest the bot, and they don't give up space easily. You have to take it away from Nightmare by force, and now Zera has a blade. Liar needs to build rally in time to just try and suppress this as much as possible. But Nightmare are insane. They're gonna also have the Orbital Ray before Squid.
They can just hold here for as long as possible, yeah? Hold this high ground. Just such a horrible angle to actually fight into. King's found his way underneath the team. Liar is trying for something cheeky, actually going for a big flank, but King's already dead. They need support in the front line. They need it now. Seeker doing a cartwheel off of the map as the blade has been pulled by Zera. A rally's going to come in, but the Bob just absolutely destroys Liar, turns him into a slice of Swiss cheese as Nightmare clean up TSM on their side of the map as OT ticks through. And Nightmare now 1 map away from getting that rematch against Toronto Defiant.
The past repeats itself. Like, this is very reminiscent of how the quarterfinal went between these two, except TSM not being able to win Control really hurts them. That's their strongest game type. That's how they can get a leg up in the series. But to drop that and to go to a different map, this is a map Esperanza is not a map that we've seen from either teams. TSM tried to surprise them, not really compositionally, but based on their understanding of the map. TSM had good power positions holding the top bridge. TSM had the initial lead, had Vision with the first Bob, first ultimate almost in the whole game. TSM had the first couple of plans executed, and Nightmare were able to stabilize, kind of realizing, okay, we may be uncomfortable on this map, but we have our fundamentals, and Nightmare stuck to that, and really stuck to Zera delivering on those big blades and taking the initiative, something that TSM really couldn't handle or couldn't survive through to even react or counter with their own ultimates. TSM never were allowed to counter with their own ultimates. King would die with blade, and then weren't able to take the subsequent fights. Nightmare were rolling them over.
1 more map to go. It was just domination from Nightmare off the get-go. Yeah, like you said, very early lead from TSM. They had a bit of a game plan coming in, get the checkpoint early. You got a lot of confidence too if you get it that soon, right? Off the back of 2 fights like that. And then yeah, just the very end, these very proactive plays coming through from Nightmare. Just the orbital rays just perfectly positioned, just making better use of them. The target calling there too. Although to be fair, in orbital rays, like, do you really need that much target calling? Like, maybe if you take down the Orisa, sure, but everybody's like dead almost instantly anyway, right? And yeah, the Genji's coming through. I mean, Zera, at the end of the day, we've kind of spoke enough about how good his Genji is, but we've also talked up King too. Just these blades from Zera just getting a lot more value. What can TSM do to come back? Can they maybe sub in Rocket again? Maybe they go to a Tracer map?
It's tough. I don't think you bring Rocket back in. No offense to Rocket. I'm a huge fan of his Tracer, but that's really the main thing he brings to the table. I think Vision brings a lot more consistency on the hit scan, and you need someone to contest Seeker if this is going to be a Widow or a Cassidy map. And I don't know where TSM go that are going to surprise Nightmare or that could beat Nightmare. This is a Nightmare team that took Toronto Defiant to a Game 5. This is a TSM, though, that have punched up to some seriously good teams. Like, they took a very good win against Fluffy Dreamland yesterday. Maybe some would have expected Fluffy Dreamland to be the ones who moved on based on their upset against NRG Shock. So for TSM to get this far, they have Grand Finals capable players, but it's the team chemistry that I'm not seeing out of TSM. When the fights really break down, there's 2 orbital rays, TSM scatter. They'll have a Dragon Blade. Liar will have a rally to try and contest this, but he won't even be in range of the Genji. He won't be able to kind of bring everyone together. TSM need to really play together.
Yeah, Liar was on a hell of an off angle too in that last fight. Saw the vision, I did, not the player. I saw what was happening in Liar's mind. Here's the maps on your screen. There you go. New Drunk City is the selection for TSM. Going to Flashpoint now. No Suravasa. No Zenyatta, probably. Can't imagine that's going to be a thing. Although I do love how aggressive you can be with that comp. Zenyatta's, you know, just terrifying if you give them time. But yeah, with how quick Nightmare are playing, probably not seeing that one come out anytime soon.
This is just going to be the straight mirror, I think. Cassidy, Genji, Orisa play, nothing crazy. It's just your understanding of the map, and especially macro plays where TSM, they're a funny team to watch because they take fights at sometimes unconventional places with a lot of upside, a lot of risk, but a lot of reward. Think about how TSM will push, for example, Bridge on Lijiang Gardens. Like, you're like, oh, you could really get concussed off the map, and that would happen. But they drop teams also into stupid places that they end up winning at. So TSM are play the unexpected route sometimes, and we'll see if that'll surprise Nightmare.
All right, yep, straight mirror. Not wrong. Those Genjis reflecting the same shurikens back like 17 different ways. All good. I want to see that happen to an Orisa Spear. That's like you're playing a very dangerous game. That ends up happening. Whoever blinks first ends up getting a spear through the face. All right, Nightmare just counter-rotating TSM right now. Both Genjis just dueling on the point. Very classic, very standard. They call this the Genji opening.
Big duel between the two Genjis to see who can control first.
It's like CXX down there. It's just a 1v1 simulator. All right, King Dead gets whip-shotted into the stratosphere. Invicta does end up falling down on the front line, but it's all good. Got the DPS to finish off. Nice resets from Zera. There you go. There's the team fight already won by Nightmare. Pretty quick.
Yeah, the two Genjis just barking at each other, decided to give it up to go back for heals, but Zero was in a healthier position, and he was able to redirect his focus to brawl against the tank and bringing down Riker. All the pins in the bowling arena fall, and King a little too close for comfort. Admiral has been so good at locking down King, and you're not seeing the same from Liar to Zero with Love. So this is going to allow this Genji of Zero to have a lot more freedom and, of course, more DPS in the fight.
All right, Orbital Ray available, though, from Squid. CJ's going to have it on in a couple of minutes anyway, and Nightmare are just going to play for that, so if they need to counter-rotate a little bit more, they will. Both Genjis now on the point again. These spears have been very accurate from Infected. We expect nothing less. Bash forward from Lion, a bit of a problem, though. Seeker just full force, just running forward, flash, fan the hammer. Blades are going to get popped as well by Zera. Looking for the break first to stop all that open health building up. Couple of slashes into the break, doesn't bring it down, but it will be Admiral that falls first. Terra Surge on the points, as both Orisas now trying to run after as many squishy targets as humanly possible. Riker Vision King on the points. Zera gets a reset off the Genji, and Riker also finishes his 1v1. CJ not exactly making that one fair, standing outside the arena while the Gladiators were going at each other, healing them all up. TSM end up losing that first fight now as we rotate to second. Nightmare just going with the game plan, Terra Surge into Deadeye, but there was natural cover from the map that made it so Seeker couldn't actually connect much with the Deadeye, so they had to invest more with the Dragon Blade and, of course, the rally. The same issue arises, though, from TSM. Liar rallied but got isolated. Who are you rallying besides yourself, the most selfish player on the field? You really got to stick with Squid, support each other, and see if you can find the team again. TSM keep going in all types of directions when the chaos happens. Chaos is usually their playground. It's up to Vision to buy
space though with the Deadeye.
High Noon, Infected push back, Spear spin used. Oh, the skull up there was available for a fraction of a second. I think even if the shot went off, probably would have got in cover before it happened. Blade pulled, Admiral already dead. Not sure you're going to survive this one, unfortunately, Zara. Oh, even the spear connects with King, but there's Vision for the cleanup. All right, TSM, you got legs. Let's see you run with them.
Yeah, being able to play off of that real estate that you have, TSM, I'm seeing them find their stride, that confidence, and especially setting up King for success ahead. And they need to now hold this. Orbital Ray exchange may happen. Deadeye from Seeker, how they approach. Is TSM going to want to brawl against that? There's always the option of trying to throw a spear, a deflect, a javelin spin. There's things that can counter the Deadeye, but are Nightmare going to want to take, or a TSM going to want to take that risk?
Orbital Ray, Seeker looking for somebody, maybe looking for King. Terror Surge comes in, and that's a whole heap of damage. Everybody from Nightmare now split up, trying to get away from Riker's ult. Vision does end up going down, the late Blade. Everybody is so low, no CDs available left for TSM. Even that speed ring is not enough to get Riker out of the flurry of metal that Zera was sending towards him. Nightmare end up capping that point, 98%. Might as well be a full cap or close to, as King and Squid end up going down. A very late death from Liar here. It's going to cost them a little bit of time. They're really, okay, they're pushing it, and they do end up getting it with the Shurikens in the end. Small stagger. Not sure how much it's going to cost them, but Nightmare in control. It's going to be all for good for them.
Yeah, I like that TSM did try to contest that Deadeye that I just spoke about. They just ran him down and made it so Seeker couldn't really unleash that. Nightmare were all grouped up, but as everyone was brawling around, TSM got so low that the Dragon Blade from Zero, he's been outstanding on the Genji, and he continues to help Nightmare really succeed, and they want to bring it to TSM.
I knew coming in. Oh, nice spear onto Vision. Seeker already falls. Admiral deploying the flash screen. Unfortunately, that shield all but gone, and same with that rally, so it looks like Nightmare trying to just live as long as possible on this point. They're just going to get run over, though. Seeker going down that early. It's not good. You just lose so much damage and so much like reset potential as well from your Genji. And that's going to be the first point going over to TSM.
Huge Genji carries again. It's about which Genji is going to live on further and further in that fight, and for King to conserve the blade, at least to build up to it. Now for the next point, that's what I'm looking forward to seeing. Nightmare, though, they really are good at disengaging as a team, sticking together. And King, how can he really peel them apart? How can you make Nightmare uncomfortable enough that they could split up? How can TSM force those mistakes? Now with this high ground position, TSM have to go through a choke. You see King at the bottom. If Nightmare get low, they may drop right into King's lap, where he could execute them with the blade.
King's skulking right now. Both Genjis once again just trying to juggle this point. Looks like Zera's kind of standing up to him as the Terror Surge comes in. In fact, he needs some serious help, though. The Orbital Ray is going to deploy. That Terror Surge coming through from Leica gets absolutely nobody. Just in the front line. Blade's been pulled as well by Zera. Just dashes through 3 people, but can't quite get more than King can. King up on that high ground. You see Zera just dashed through, then dropped to low. It was King that was doing the main source of the damage there from TSM. There's a very quick flip. There's only a 28% was gained by Nightmare.
Great timing on the Orbital Ray from Squid when Riker was so low. I was worried about how much he was hesitating on pushing through that choke. The Orbital Ray brought him right back on his feet, and then King and Zero, King just getting a few more kills than Zero to finish off the fight in TSM's favor, but that was still dangerously close. TSM barely hold. Now they're on the high ground. Seeker may even stop them.
Oh, good shot.
Kind of help them take back that real estate with the Deadeye.
She's low. High Noon. Nice block, actually, on that spear. Almost had that one deflected back at him, but Seeker's good. Here's the High Noon now from Vision. They're looking at Infected. Spear spin to run away, or Fortify to boot. Flip almost comes through from Zera. These healing torpedoes coming in as TSM are just waylaying all this damage from Nightmare currently. Looks like the game plan now for Nightmare, just getting on this high ground. They know Riker's down low, and Squid just gets isolated. The Magnate kill for Seeker comes in, and now he's ignoring most of TSM, just focusing on the 1v1 versus Vision on the other side of it. Even bashed. Maybe Seeker now needs to pay attention to the Orisa that's looking straight at his face, but it don't matter in the end as TSM they end up losing at the point. Although Riker's still being alive. Can be a bit of a nuisance to Nightmare, but with little support, he's not going to survive for too long.
It's just the same problem for TSM being so split. Lyre and Squid, like, not even one of them is playing with vision. Like, the off angle is okay if you are grouped up, I guess, but then the rally doesn't save Squid. He's first picked. He's not getting packed immediately. It's just these small lapses. Nightmare are not going to give you any forgiveness. They're going to punish you every single time, and this is now the fight for the lead.
Seeker going pretty low, actually, off the high ground there too, on what was probably a spear. Admiral's already killed Vision. King looking around. Where'd everybody go? Where's my team? Terror Surge coming in. Infected not too scared, just standing directly in it. I mean, that fight was just like orange juice after toothpaste. That was painful. Nightmare end up getting that flip in the end, and 99% ticks over to 100. They are now on match point, game point, map point, whatever you want to call it. They are 1 point away from seeing Toronto Defiant once again in that finals.
That's so rough for TSM. When they had control, they looked much better on that point than ever before. And just these small slip-ups are going to cost them, especially how important that last fight was. At least you got Dragon Blade Orbital Ray if you're TSM, and they already are watching Nightmare walk in. They could have even attacked at that point. TSM are almost a little too passive, and they've really winded back their aggression so much more, depending on Vision to get these picks, but it's not happening. Orbital Ray, Dragon Blade has to be the answer.
High noon. Oh, Riker trying to get a little cheeky, a little bit too cheeky, I think. Here's his head blown off by Seeker. They bought a bit of time there. Maybe this blade's going to be able to... Oh, King absolutely schooled by Seeker. Loses the blade. Will they end up losing the fight? The orbital ray was good for a couple, but Infected, yeah, he's not one to mess around. Sayonara Vision. The point is ours.
Yeah, TSM are depending too much on being able to survive the initial wave of ultimates and then being able to counter with their own. Thinking about how TSM were hiding sort of from the Deadeye when they had Orbital Ray, they could have just tried to counter it. TSM have done a good job of shutting down Seeker's Deadeyes by sheer aggression, but to not pop the Orbital Ray, to not even try to save Riker, is costing your whole front line, is costing the initial cap of the point. Now Nightmare get to conserve all these ults. Dragon Blade at the ready. TSM have a rally, but all depends. Can TSM group up to shut down Zera?
Blade and Ray coming up soon. TSM with only this rally right now is going to be a tough fight. See if Nightmare, how quickly they want to go. Of course, they're in control. They can really make this hurt for TSM. Looks like they're going to press the go button now as the rally comes in and the Orbital Ray. Probably don't even need the ultimate here from Zera, if I'm going to be honest. They do end up splitting TSM as Lyre also pops the rally, but King is alone. One dasher should be enough, yeah. One dash and then the spear spin. King's already dead. Blade pop from the high ground. Vision trying to roll away. Deflect's good enough. Vision had all those bullets deflected straight back into him, and Zera's going to clean up Nightmare. Oh, just decapitate TSM. Not a close series by any stretch of the imagination. Truly, the second seed in North America coming up strong. A 3-0 as they see themselves now in the finals versus Toronto Defiant.
It's just another 9-to-5 office day for Nightmare. Like this, they didn't even look like they broke a sweat, and I think this was a very unfortunate day. A really rough showing from TSM, especially backline-wise. A lot of DPS from TSM side waiting for heals, sitting at half health. Of course, it's going to make a Genji like Zera look great. He's so good at identifying the field and sort of what are the weaknesses, what are the points that Zera can really put salt to the wound. Sees all these low HP targets, sees Vision tumble away to save himself waiting for heals, and by getting to these safe positions, TSM isolate themselves. Squid and Lyre can't find anybody. I don't know, really, is it the DPS fault for isolating themselves? Is it Lyre and Squid not paying enough attention? But TSM being so low, they can't fight. And then Zera gets dash resets. He looks amazing. King can't take the initiative because he's always missing health. TSM just didn't play together, and it's a really unfortunate ending for them here.
It's turning like a classic like Overwatch finals day at this point. Very quick. A lot of 4-0s, 3-0s. I hope the finals for North America are a little bit closer. Of course, Toronto Defiant and Nightmare the other day went all the way to a 5-map series. We'll see if it can go to 7 maps in the first of 4 format in a bit. But first, the desk can wrap up that match and send us on to the next one.
Well, we're going to keep it as quick as they did in their 3-0 series. Nightmare, nice warm-up for them, for TSM. Obviously, a bit of a heartbreaker that they going out like this. Although I do have to repeat what Jen already said, TSM, for their squad as a whole and for that organization, it is the deepest run they've made in any of the stages, and there's definitely nothing to scoff at because there's a lot of great competition out there.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of the pieces, they made it to the grand final of stage 1, but for people who were part of Luminosity, like Squid, for example, Vision, they never quite find that success with that Luminosity core, right? So then coming together here, as TSM, of course, it's a good effort from these guys. It's a shame they barely fell short of Stockholm, but nevertheless, I mean, these are very talented individuals. Looking forward to 2025 from now on.
Yeah, let's talk about some individuals. Obviously, with Genji being so prevalent in the current meta, we will be having our eyes on those Genji mirror matchups when we get them. King had his work cut out for himself, though, going up against Zero.
Yeah, King had his work cut out for him in this one. It was, part of the puzzle. I think it was a bit of a Genji diff in this scenario. King just couldn't secure the value on his Genji, whereas I think Zero was rock solid and just had a great understanding of when to utilize the Dragon Blade instead. I feel like King at some points popped it a little bit too early. Sometimes we like to see it combined with the Terra Surge because it set up, following up on those Dragon Blade kills, or when fights have all really broken down, when people have used their abilities, then you as a Genji, you can clean up, you can capitalize on other people not having their defensive abilities ready. I feel like King, he popped it early sometimes, got shut down multiple times. We saw on both Esperanza, he pulled a blade in the backline, got shut down immediately. Here on New Junk City as well, King just couldn't get it going with the Genji. It's just one part of the puzzle here. Obviously not at all, only the Genji is a team effort, but that was one part that stood out to me, Caleb.
Yeah, not only the Dragon Blades, I think Zera just had a better understanding of how to get value in the neutral. He was using his deflect with his Orisa to reflect damage onto the other team, and then he would 5-man dash through everybody, hit the whole team, and King felt more like he was going aggressive onto the backline, and I think Nightmare's backline just ended up swallowing him up a lot of those situations.
I mean, you guys were raving about him. I think Zero is going to be the player of the match. I mean, well deserved. His Genji, I agree with you guys, was way better than King's was. Also, I think Nightmare just in general was just playing as a whole team. Like, they were just a better team overall compared to TSM.
That's something Jen touched at as well during the cast, of course. They looked more disconnected on TSM sides, whereas Nightmare. Lots of cohesion, lots of synergy on full display in their match today.
Yeah, I think one thing we don't talk about as much either is, I think on Esperanza it was quite notable how Nightmare, they got a lot of orbital ray value. Often Infected puts them in a position where they have a lot of room to walk with the orbital ray and get the maximum amount of value on that. And I feel like Squid at times was either using it to push around chokes to get through the chokes, but they didn't quite have the positioning, or use it reactively to Nightmare in positions where Nightmare were really comfortable getting the max value out of the orbital ray. So I think one part when we look at this Nightmare roster, they're so good at putting themselves in a position to get the maximum amount of their ultimate value. And that comes from trading with the Orisa, trading the spam, the abilities there to set them up in the begin with, but also an understanding of like, how do we get the most out of our orbital ray and rally.